Today we're building a handy little delay-off timer circuit. Press a button, the light turns on, and even after you let go, it stays on for about a minute before switching off by itself. Walk away and forget? No worries, this smart circuit handles it for you. Stick around till the end. I'll walk you through exactly how the circuit works, how to pick the right components, and how to tweak it to adjust the delay or control just about any application you want. First up, let's meet the brain behind this entire operation, the LM393IC. This little 8-pin chip is not only super affordable, you can snag a handful for less than $1. Powering it is a breeze. Just connect pin 8 to your positive supply, pin 4 to ground, and you're good to go. It works with a wide voltage range, from as low as 3 volts all the way up to 38, but for our project, we're keeping it clean and simple with a standard 5-volt supply. So what makes the LM393 so valuable? It's all about the dual built-in comparators. A comparator is a simple circuit that does one specific job. It compares 2 voltages and tells you which one is higher. Rather than drawing out all the tiny components inside, we usually represent a comparator in diagrams with a simple triangle symbol. Here's how it works. The comparator looks at 2 input voltages. Let's call them A and B. If the voltage at A is higher than at B, the output flips on and jumps up to 5 volts. But if A falls below B, the output shuts off and drops down to 0 volts. It's a clean, digital-style response, either fully on or fully off, with no messy in between. No microcontroller needed. Just a smart little circuit that reacts to voltage levels and handles the timing for us. So how do we use the comparator in this circuit? We keep voltage B steady, like a reference line. Then, when you press the button, voltage A jumps up and goes above B. As long as A is lower than B, the output stays at 0 volts. But the moment A crosses above B, the comparator switches on, and the output jumps to 5 volts. Now here's where the delay comes in. After that initial jump, we make A slowly start to fall. As long as A stays above B, the output stays on. But once A drops below B again, the comparator flips back off, and the output goes low. So the amount of time A stays higher than B, that's our delay. Press the button, voltage A jumps up, and the countdown begins. The LM393 actually has 2 comparators built in, but for this project, we're only using 1. So don't worry if some of the pins go unused. That's totally normal. We'll be working with comparator number 1, which uses pins 1, 2, and 3. Pin 1 is the output, and pins 2 and 3 are the inputs. Here's the setup. We'll keep the voltage on pin 2 fixed. That's our reference voltage. Then, we'll connect pin 3 to a part of the circuit where the voltage changes slowly over time. This is how we control the delay. When the voltage on pin 3 is higher than pin 2, the output at pin 1 stays on. But once pin 3 drops below pin 2, the output switches off. That's our built-in countdown. To set pin 2 at a steady reference voltage, I'm using a simple voltage divider. In this case, it's just a 47 kilo-ohm resistor and a 10 kilo-ohm resistor working together. They drop the 5-volt supply down to about 0.877 volts at pin 2, which is right where we need it for this circuit to work reliably. Now, you could use smaller resistor values to get the same ratio, like 1 kilo-ohm and 4.7 kilo-ohms. That's totally fine, and the voltage will still be right. But here's the catch. Lower resistance means more current flows straight to ground, which wastes power. Here, it draws only 0.088 milliamps. That's why I'm using higher values. They do the job while keeping the current draw super low. Of course, if power consumption isn't a concern in your project, go ahead and use smaller resistor values. It's up to you. So how do we keep the voltage at pin 3 higher than pin 2, but only for a limited time? This is where capacitors step into the spotlight. Unlike a switch that flips instantly, capacitors change voltage gradually. They charge and discharge in a smooth curve. Want to dive deeper into how capacitors work? Check out our capacitor video. I'll drop the link in the description. Here's what we're aiming for. When you press the button, the capacitor charges up fast, ideally in just 50 milliseconds. That gives us a quick jump to 5 volts on pin 3. Then, once you let go of the button, the capacitor starts to discharge slowly. We want it to drop from 5 volts down to 0.877 volts, the reference voltage on pin 2, over about 60 seconds. As long as pin 3 stays above pin 2, the comparator output stays high, keeping the light on. But once that voltage dips below 0.877 volts, the comparator flips, and the output shuts off. That slow voltage drop is the heart of our timing. The length of the fall sets the delay. The speed at which a capacitor charges or discharges depends mainly on two things: the resistance and the capacitance in the circuit. Multiply those together, and you get what's called the time constant, or RC. Here's a simple rule of thumb. When charging, the time it takes to reach the supply voltage, let's call it T1, is about 5 time constants. For discharging, we can calculate the voltage at any time T2 using this formula. This shows how the voltage drops over time. V0 is the starting voltage, and RC controls the speed. The higher the RC, the slower the voltage falls. To achieve the required charging and discharging times, we can use this kind of circuit. In our circuit, we've set up 2 separate paths to take advantage of this. When you press the button, the capacitor charges through a low resistance path. That means a quick boost to 5 volts, fast enough to be practically instant. When you release the button, that charging path gets disconnected, and the capacitor starts discharging through a much higher resistance. This slows everything down, giving us the delay we want. So our circuit looks like this now. This setup gives us full control over the timing. All we have to do is choose the right capacitor and resistor values to match the delay we're aiming for. All right, let's run through an example with actual numbers. Say we're using a 100 microfarad capacitor. That's our starting point. Now, for the charging part, we want this capacitor to charge from 0 to 5 volts within 50 milliseconds. That's more than enough time for a quick button press. Remember, charging a capacitor to nearly full voltage takes about 5 time constants. So we set up the equation. Solving for R gives R is equal to 100 ohms. So to get a full charge in 50 milliseconds, we'll need a 100 ohm resistor in the charging path. This low resistance makes sure the capacitor charges almost instantly when the button is pressed. Now let's figure out the resistor value for the discharging part of the circuit. We'll use the capacitor discharge formula, where T is the time we want the discharge to take. Here we are going to set the delay 60 seconds. V is the starting voltage, 5 volts. VC is the voltage we want to reach, which is 0.877 volts. The reference voltage at pin 2. C is the capacitance. Let's plug in the numbers. Solving for R, we get R is about 345 ohms. So to get a 60-second delay with a 100 microfarad capacitor, you'll need a resistor close to 345 kiloohms in the discharge path. Now, here's the thing. You probably won't find a resistor that's exactly 345 kiloohms at your local electronics store. And that's totally fine. We can just pick the closest standard value. In this case, I'm going with 330 kiloohms, a very common resistor. So, to get about 60-second delay with a 100 microfarad capacitor, you'll need a 330 kiloohms resistor in the discharge path. Let's plug that back into the formula and see what delay we actually get. To discharge time is about 57.44 seconds, so instead of a perfect 60-second delay, we get about 57.4 seconds, which is close enough for most real-life applications. For my setup, 57 seconds is totally fine, close enough that you won't even notice the difference. But if you're aiming for exactly 1 minute, you can always build a custom resistance by combining standard resistors in series or parallel. For example, 330 kilohms plus 15 kilohms gives you exactly 345 kilohms. That's the beauty of analog electronics. You've got options. That wraps up how we choose our resistors for charging and discharging the capacitor. Now let's move on to the second half of the circuit, actually using the LM393 output to control something like an LED. And here's where things get a little tricky. You might think you can just connect an LED straight to the output pin of the LM393 and watch it light up when the output goes high. But nope. Even a simple LED won't turn on. Why? It all comes down to how the output pin works. Inside the LM393, the output acts kind of like a switch that only connects to ground. When the output is low, the switch is closed, and it pulls the pin straight to ground. But when the output is high, it just disconnects from ground. It doesn't connect to the positive side of the supply. It's basically floating in limbo, not connected to anything. This is what we call a floating output, so even though the output is technically high, there's no actual voltage being pushed out to power your LED. To fix this, we add a pull-up resistor. This resistor connects the output pin to the positive supply, say 5 volts. Now, when the LM393 pulls the output low, current flows through the resistor to ground. But when the output floats, the resistor steps in and gently pulls the voltage up to 5 volts, creating a true high signal. That means your LED finally gets real voltage across it and lights up just like it should. So in short, a pull-up resistor is like a little helper that makes sure the high signal is actually high. Without it, your output just floats in the dark. But how do we choose the right pull-up resistor? Let's think about what happens when the output is low. In that case, the pull-up resistor connects the positive supply directly to ground through the LM393. That means current is constantly flowing, even if the load isn't active. This increases power usage and puts stress on the LM393's output. According to the datasheet, the maximum current the LM393 can safely sink is 20 milliamps. So we need to choose a resistor that limits the current to 20 milliamps or less. Let's calculate the resistor value. Using Ohm's law, we get R is 250 ohms. That means we should use a 250 ohm resistor or higher. A standard, easy-to-find value is 270 ohms. With that, we get the current 18 milliamps. That's safely below the limit and enough to light up a red LED. With the pull-up resistor in place, the output is ready, and now we can demonstrate the full circuit in action. When we push the button, the light turns on immediately. After we release it, the light stays on for about 1 minute before turning off automatically. That's great, but just controlling a tiny LED isn't exactly useful in everyday life. So how can we upgrade this to control something like a 230-volt alternating current 100-watt light bulb? The simplest solution is a relay. We connect the high-voltage load to the relay and let our circuit control the relay instead. But here's the catch. A typical 5-volt relay needs around 100 milliamps to activate, while the LM393 can only provide about 10 milliamps, not nearly enough to drive the relay directly. So how do we solve that? Simple. We use a transistor as a switch. I'm using a 2N2222 transistor, which is commonly used for driving relays. But really, any general-purpose NPN transistor will work here. We connect the base of the transistor to the comparator's output through a resistor, the emitter to ground, and the relay to the collector, just like this. Now, the comparator doesn't need to power the relay itself. It just sends a small signal to the transistor's base. The transistor then handles the larger current needed to switch the relay on and off. Problem solved. But there's one crucial thing to watch out for when using a relay. When you turn off the relay coil, the magnetic field around it collapses, and that sudden collapse creates a nasty high-voltage spike in the opposite direction. We're talking hundreds of volts, even if our supply is just 5 volts. That spike can easily damage sensitive components like transistors or ICs. To protect the circuit, we add a diode in reverse across the relay coil. This is called a flyback diode or freewheeling diode. It gives the leftover current a safe path to circulate through the coil until it naturally fades away. A simple diode like the one N4007 works great for this. Just connect it in reverse across the coil and you're good to go. Now, with the diode in place, our timer circuit is not just smart, it's protected and reliable. Now, the LM393 doesn't need to power the load. It just sends a small high or low signal to the base of a transistor. When the transistor gets that signal, it switches on and connects the load to ground. The actual power for the load, like a relay, comes straight from the battery or power supply, not the LM393. That means the comparator handles the logic, and the transistor does the heavy lifting. With this setup, you can control just about any 5-volt device, LEDs, fans, motors, and with a relay, even high-power AC appliances. Now that our timer circuit is up and running, let's talk about making the delay adjustable. As we mentioned earlier, the delay depends on the resistor in the capacitor's discharge path. Change that resistor, and you change how long the capacitor takes to drain, which sets the delay. But what if you don't want a fixed delay? What if you want to tweak it any time? Simple. Swap the fixed resistor for a variable one like a potentiometer. That way, you can dial in the delay by hand. Make it short or stretch it out, whatever fits your project. For example, using a 1 mega-ohm potentiometer can give you a delay of up to around 2 minutes. That's all for today. If you think my contents are valuable to the world, you are welcome to join my Patreon community. Like and subscribe to Professor Mad for more interesting videos.